I noticed her before she said a single thing to me. There was something about the way she stood at the edge of the courtyard, arms folded as if she was trying not to show how tired she really was. People passed around her in a blur, but she held still, like she was waiting for something she was not sure she should want. When her eyes found mine, it felt too direct, like she had caught me looking even before I did. Then she gave this small, almost apologetic smile, and for a second I forgot whatever reason I had for being there in the first place. She was my old teacher's friend. I had met her twice, maybe 3 times, never long enough to say anything more than hello. But standing there that evening, I felt like I knew more about her than I should. Older, yes, but not in the way people say it to make someone sound far away. She carried her age like a soft layer over the sharpness of a woman who used to move fast and say things without checking if they would land gently. There was a grace to the way she breathed, even when she pretended nothing bothered her. She tilted her head. "You live near Oak Street, right?" I nodded. "Walk me home." Her voice was even, but her fingers tightened around the strap of her bag. "It's getting dark." I said yes before she finished the sentence. We fell into step together, quiet at first. The campus lights hummed behind us, fading as we followed the path toward the older neighborhoods. Leaves scraped across the pavement. The cold carried the smell of rain, even though the sky still held itself back. She kept her hands in her coat pockets. Every few steps, she glanced at me like she was checking if I was still there. "How have you been?" I asked. She laughed under her breath. Complicated question. Then she shook her head. "Sorry, I am fine. Just a long week." I wanted to believe her, but her shoulders stayed a little too tight, her smile a little too practiced. A branch cracked somewhere behind us. She flinched, barely, and I pretended not to notice. She pretended she had not moved. We walked a little closer after that. The streetlights softened her face, tracing the line of her cheek. The quiet sadness in her eyes she kept trying to blink away. I tried not to stare, but she caught me once. "What?" she asked. "Nothing." She gave a slow breath, like she believed me and did not at the same time. When we reached the narrow walkway that led toward her neighborhood, she paused. The air felt heavier here, the silence thicker. She stepped ahead, then stopped and looked back, waiting for me to follow. The distance between us was small enough that when she turned, her coat brushed my arm. "You always walk this fast?" I asked. "I thought I was walking slow." She hesitated, then added, "You make people feel rushed." I raised a brow. "I barely said anything." "That is what I mean." She looked away, brushing a fallen leaf off her sleeve even though it was not really there. "You watch people too closely." I wanted to tell her that she was the one I kept watching, but the words stayed behind my teeth. We reached her street. She stopped again, her hand lifting as if she meant to touch my arm before thinking better of it. "Thank you," she said. Her voice softened in a way I had not heard before. A shadow moved behind the frosted glass of her front door. She tensed, her breath catching in her throat. "Oh," she whispered. "I didn't think anyone would still be awake." She glanced at me, eyes unsure, almost asking something she could not say. The door handle turned. The door opened only halfway before someone inside called her name. A man's voice, older, clipped. She answered quickly, too quickly, saying she would be right in. When the door shut again, she let out a breath that sounded almost shaky. "Friend?" I asked. She shook her head. "My brother. He's staying here for a while." Her eyes flicked toward the door, then back to me. "He worries too much." "That makes 2 of us?" I said before I could stop myself. She looked down, smiling in a way that wasn't quite a smile. "You shouldn't." But she didn't step away. A porch light hummed above us. She touched the railing with her fingers, slow circles, like she needed something solid to hold. I watched the way her hand moved, how deliberate it was. She noticed, because she tucked her hand into her coat pocket again, almost embarrassed. "You should get inside," I said, though I didn't mean it. "I know." She didn't move. "I'm not used to being walked home. Not anymore." There was something inside those words, something tired. I leaned against the fence to keep myself from asking the questions that rose too fast. She studied me, her eyes softer now. How old are you again? 20. She breathed out through her nose. Not judgmental, just conflicted. You're a child compared to me. You don't talk to me like I am. Her gaze dropped to the ground. A tiny smile pushed through before she caught it. That's the problem. For a moment, neither of us spoke. A car passed on the main road, its headlights brushing over her face. She had that look again, the one that hid more than it revealed. I wondered who had put that habit in her. A past relationship, maybe. Someone who talked over her. Someone who left her waiting for kindness that never came. Your brother. He doesn't like people coming around late? I asked. It's not that. She hesitated. He thinks I get attached too easily. I swallowed. Do you? She met my eyes. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I used to. The porch light flickered. She stepped closer, almost unconsciously, until her shoulder brushed my arm. It wasn't an accident. Or if it was, she didn't correct it. I felt the faint warmth of her body through her coat, and I tried not to show how much it registered. I should go, she said, but she didn't move. She reached toward me, maybe intending to fix the collar of my jacket, maybe intending nothing at all. Her fingers grazed my shoulder, then stopped there, light, unsure, but real. I didn't breathe for a moment. She let her hand stay longer than necessary, her thumb barely pressing as if memorizing the shape of me. Then she pulled away, quick, almost guilty. Good night, she said. Her voice held something unsteady. She stepped back toward the door. I lingered on the bottom step, hoping she'd look at me one more time. She did. Only for a second. But it was enough. Her eyes held something she wasn't ready to name. Then the door opened again from inside, and she flinched, turning sharply. The last thing I saw before she disappeared into the house was her hand pressing over her heart. As if trying to quiet it, I didn't expect to see her again so soon. 2 days later, I found her standing outside the library, arms wrapped around herself as if the sun hadn't bothered to warm her side of the street. She wasn't waiting for anyone, but she pretended she was. When she noticed me, her breath caught for half a second. She smoothed her hair, even though nothing was out of place. You're early, she said. I wasn't meeting anyone. She blinked once, slowly, like she wasn't sure what to do with that answer. We walked toward the back path, the one lined with old sycamores and half-broken benches no one used. Students moved around us, loud and laughing. She stuck close to me, maybe without realizing, or maybe too aware of it. You shouldn't, she started, then stopped. What? Nothing. She sighed. People notice things. I almost said, let them. But she was already watching a group of students across the courtyard, her jaw tight. I pretended not to see her worry. We kept walking. Halfway down the path, she slowed. My brother asked about you, she said, voice low. About me. He heard us talking on the porch. She rubbed her palm against her coat, restless. He thinks I'm being careless. He's wrong. She looked up at me. I must have said it too quickly, because her eyes softened in that way they only did when she wasn't guarding herself. I don't know, she whispered. Maybe he isn't. A message alert chimed from her phone. She flinched, stepping back like she'd been caught doing something she shouldn't. The screen lit her face. Her brother again. You can answer, I said. I don't want to, she murmured. The wind pushed a strand of her hair across her cheek. Before I could think, I reached out and brushed it back. My fingers grazed her skin. Warm, softer than I expected. She froze. I did too. Her breath hitched just once. She didn't pull away. Not immediately. Her eyes held mine longer than they should have. Long enough for every reason this was a bad idea to rise between us like fog. I shouldn't, she said again, but her voice lacked conviction. A group of students turned the corner ahead of us. Their chatter echoed down the path. She startled and stepped closer, almost into me. So instinctively it surprised both of us. For a moment, she was close enough that her coat brushed my chest, close enough that her breath warmed the space just under my jaw. "Sorry," she whispered. "You don't have to be." She looked up. Her eyes flicked to my mouth for a fraction of a second. My heart thudded too loud. She noticed and almost smiled, the kind of smile someone gives when they wish they were braver. The students approached. She reached for my arm, gripping just above my elbow, guiding me toward the shadowed side of the path. Anyone watching would assume we were avoiding them, but her hand stayed on me even after they passed. She realized it too late and let go so quickly the cold rushed in between us. "I keep making this worse," she murmured. "For who?" I asked. She didn't answer. Another silence. Tight, charged. Leaves rustled. A bird cut across the sky in a blur. She stepped closer again, almost without thinking. "Tell me to stop," she said quietly. I didn't. Her breath brushed against my chin. Her fingers hovered near mine, close enough to touch but not quite daring. We didn't kiss. We didn't even speak. But we stood there, too close, too aware, resisting something neither of us was ready to name. The moment stretched thin. Then she whispered, "Walk me home again?" Not a question. More like a confession she didn't mean to let slip. The third night I walked her home. She didn't bother pretending it was coincidence. She waited by the same courtyard bench, arms wrapped around herself even though the air was warmer than before. When she saw me, she stood too fast, as if she had been arguing with herself and finally lost. "You came," she said. "You were waiting," I answered. She didn't deny it. We walked without words at first. Her pace was slow, steps uneven, like her thoughts kept tripping over each other. I kept my hands in my pockets so I wouldn't do something stupid like reach for hers. Halfway down the block, she stopped. Not slowed. Stopped. I turned. "Are you all right?" She lifted her chin, trying to look composed, but her breathing was shallow. "I'm tired of pretending I don't notice things." "What things?" "You." The word came out small, almost broken. "How close you stand. The way you look at me like I'm younger than I am, or like I'm still allowed to be wanted." My pulse hammered. She didn't look at me, only at the ground between us, as if the cracks in the pavement held answers she couldn't say out loud. "You think I don't feel it?" she whispered. "You think I didn't almost—" She cut herself off, pressing her fingers to her forehead. God, I shouldn't be saying any of this. I stepped closer before she could retreat. Her breath caught, but she didn't move away. "What almost?" I asked. She laughed once, brittle. "You know." The street was quiet except for wind brushing the trees. A porch light buzzed somewhere behind us. She finally looked up. Her eyes were wet, not with tears but with something like frustration, or longing she didn't want to admit. "You're too young," she said, "and I'm old enough to know better. Do you want me to stop?" I asked. Her lips parted. She didn't answer. A car rolled past at the end of the street, headlights glinting off her hair. In the glow, she looked even more undone, the careful mask she always wore slipping at the edges. She reached out, resting her fingers on my sleeve. Slow, careful, as if touching me might start something she couldn't stop. "Every time you walk me home," she said softly, "I tell myself it's the last, but then I find myself waiting again." My throat tightened. I moved closer so slowly she had time to pull back. She didn't. Her forehead almost brushed my chin. I could feel the warmth of her breath. She tilted her face up, just enough that the space between us shrank to a heartbeat. "Someone will see," she murmured, though she leaned in another inch. "Then don't move," I whispered. A small sound escaped her, halfway between fear and wanting. I raised my hand, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. My fingers grazed her skin, and she inhaled sharply, her eyes fluttering closed for a moment too long. When she opened them, she was done pretending. "You make this impossible," she whispered. I didn't know if she meant the moment, or her restraint, or the space she kept insisting should exist between us. Either way, she stepped closer. Close enough that her coat brushed my chest, close enough that our breaths tangled. "This can't," she started, voice trembling. But then she stopped speaking altogether, staring at my mouth like she was finally about to cross the line she'd been tracing for days. Her hand slid to my chest, slow, deliberate. I leaned in. The air between us tightened, thin as paper. And just as our lips were about to meet, a sharp voice called her name from up the street. She flinched violently, stepping back as if the world snapped her back into place. The voice calling her name echoed down the quiet street, too close, too sharp. She jerked back like she had been burned, hands slipping off my chest, breath breaking in half. Her brother stepped into view, phone in hand, irritation written all over him. "I've been calling you. Why are you?" He stopped when he saw me. His eyes narrowed, quick and cutting. "Again." She swallowed, straightening her coat even though it sat perfectly fine. "I told you I was walking home. With him." His jaw tightened. "Do you think I'm blind?" Her fingers twitched at her side. I didn't move. If I did, it would only make everything worse. "I don't owe you an explanation," she said, but her voice wavered. He looked at her, really looked, and his expression softened in a way that startled me, like annoyance wasn't the whole truth. "I heard you," he murmured, "the other night, on the porch." She froze. "I wasn't trying to," he added, "but the window was open. You were talking about getting attached again. I know what it means when you talk like that." Color drained from her face. She stepped back. Not toward him, not toward me, but into some empty space between, as if both directions were dangerous. "You misunderstood," she said. "No," he said quietly. "I didn't." Her breath faltered. Her hands shook, just a little. She hid them in her pockets, but I saw. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not trying to control your life. I'm just worried you'll get hurt again." Hurt again. The words hung in the air, heavier than anything before. She closed her eyes for a moment, and everything on her face, regret, fear, hope, shifted in ways she didn't want us to see. Then she turned to me, and something in her expression changed, like a door opening that she had spent years keeping locked. "I didn't tell you something," she said quietly. My stomach tightened. "What is it?" She hesitated, glancing behind her brother. "Can we talk somewhere else?" "No," her brother snapped. "Yes," she said, with more force this time. "We can." She stepped closer to me, close enough that her sleeve brushed my wrist. The tiny contact sent a shiver through her. I saw it, even if she tried to hide it. "He wasn't the one who hurt me," she said, nodding subtly toward her brother. "But he saw what happened. He saw the worst of me." Her brother's voice lowered. "You weren't the worst. You were in love." She flinched. I understood then, in pieces, someone older than her, maybe. Someone who made promises they couldn't keep. Someone who left her clinging to the ruins of a future she thought she had. She shook her head, trying to brush the memory off her skin. "I'm not repeating that," she whispered. "I can't." Her eyes met mine, and I felt the truth in the way she stared, raw, cautious, wanting. "I need to know," she said, "if this, whatever this is one-sided." Her brother stepped forward. "Don't do this now." But she didn't look away from me. Her breathing trembled. Mine matched it. This was the moment she had been fighting since the first night. The moment every near touch, every pause, every almost confession had been leading toward. "Tell me," she whispered. "Please." I opened my mouth to answer, but before I could speak, she reached out and took my hand. Not by accident. Not in confusion. A choice. A quiet, trembling choice. And everything between us shifted. Her hand in mine didn't feel accidental or confused. It felt like something she had been holding back for days, maybe longer, and the moment it happened the world around us sharpened into something too real to ignore. Her brother stared, stunned, but she didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, wide, uncertain, full of a question she had no strength left to hide. "Come with me," she whispered, not pulling, not demanding, just asking. I followed her a few steps down the block, out of her brother's immediate line of sight. The street was quiet, lined with dim porch lights and the rustle of trees. She stopped near a low brick wall, turning so close her coat brushed my chest again. She let go of my hand slowly, like the separation itself hurt. "I need a straight answer," she said. Her voice was low, unsteady. Not the polite one, not the careful one, the real one. Her breath mixed with mine. The space between us felt thinner than it had ever been, as if one wrong move would undo everything or start something neither of us could take back. "I didn't plan any of this," she continued. "I didn't want to feel anything. Not again. Not with someone your age. Not with someone who actually notices when I'm lying to myself." Her fingers twitched like she wanted to reach for me again, but didn't trust herself. I stepped a half-inch closer. Not touching, but near enough that she had to lift her chin to meet my eyes. "You're not imagining it," I said. "Any of it." A soft sound left her. Almost relief, almost fear. She shook her head, a small, brittle laugh slipping out. "You don't understand what this would mean for me." "Then explain it." She pressed her palm to her chest, as if steadying herself. "People talk. They always talk. And I'm tired of being the woman everyone pities or judges. I'm tired of choosing wrong. I'm tired of being—" She stopped, jaw tightening. "You make me forget all of that. And that scares me." Her voice thinned. "It scares me more than anything." For a moment, she looked like she might step back, like the fear might win. But then her hand lifted toward me on instinct, hovering just below my jaw, shaking with the effort it took to stop herself. I leaned in just enough that her fingertips brushed my skin. She inhaled sharply. "I don't want to run from this," I said. "From you." Her eyes glistened in the porch light. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. She just stood there, caught between wanting and warning. "Say it," she whispered. "Please, say it so I can stop fighting you." I held her gaze, close enough now that my voice dropped without meaning to. "I want you. I think I wanted you from the first night." Something inside her broke open, quietly, but unmistakably. She closed the remaining distance between us. Not a kiss, not yet, but her forehead touched mine, soft and trembling, like she was finally letting herself lean. Her hands lifted to my shoulders, light at first, then firmer, as if grounding herself. Her breath trembled against my mouth. "This is real, isn't it?" she whispered. "Tell me I'm not imagining you." "You're not," I murmured. A long, fragile silence followed. Her pulse thudded where her wrist brushed my collar. My hands hovered near her waist, unsure if touching her would break the moment or seal it. Then she nodded once, small but certain. "I choose this," she said. "I choose you." We didn't close the last inch. We didn't need to. Everything was already decided that we stayed like that longer than we should have. Our foreheads touching, our breaths mixing in the quiet. Neither of us moved. Neither of us wanted to. The world felt smaller, softer, as if everything that had pushed us apart was finally running out of excuses. She was the first to speak. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "That makes two of us." She let out a tiny breath through her nose, almost a laugh. Her hands slipped from my shoulders, drifting down my arms until her fingers brushed mine. She hesitated for a moment, then laced them together. Not tightly, just enough so I'd know she wasn't taking it back. "You really aren't scared?" she asked. "I am," I said. "But not of you." She looked down at our hands. Her thumb moved once across the back of mine, slow and careful, like she was memorizing the shape. "People will talk," she murmured. "People always talk." She nodded, but I could feel the old fear tugging at her. I squeezed her hand gently, pulling her closer until her forehead rested against the side of my jaw this time. She let herself lean into me, her weight settling in a way that felt like trust more than anything else. "You know what I worried about most?" she said quietly. "What?" "That it wasn't real for you. That you were just being kind." I shook my head. "I don't do all this for kindness." She smiled at that, a real one this time, soft and a little shy. Her shoulders dropped, tension loosening from her body, as if she was finally breathing without bracing for something to go wrong. We stayed close as we walked toward her house again, fingers still entwined. She didn't let go even when we turned onto her street and her brother's porch light came into view. He stood outside, arms crossed, but something in his expression shifted when he saw us. Not approval, not anger, something closer to resignation, or maybe acceptance. She paused at the steps. "Give me a minute," she whispered. I nodded, letting her keep my hand a moment longer before she finally released it. She walked up to her brother, spoke to him in low tones I couldn't catch. He looked over her shoulder at me, then back at her, shaking his head. But after a long pause, he stepped aside and went inside. She returned to me slowly, almost uncertain, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to come back. "Are you cold?" I asked. "A little." I opened my arms, not sure she'd take the invitation. She stepped into them without hesitation. Her head rested against my chest, her hands curled lightly at my sides. I held her gently, the kind of gentle that says I'm not going anywhere. "You're warm," she murmured. "So are you." She laughed softly, the sound muffled against me. I don't remember the last time I felt safe with someone. I rested my chin against her hair. "Then stay." She tilted her face up, brushing the side of her forehead against my jaw in a quiet, affectionate motion that felt more intimate than any kiss could have been. "I want to," she said. We stood there in the porch light, wrapped in each other and the newness of something we had both tried to resist. No hiding, no pretending, just the simple truth that we had chosen each other. "Tomorrow?" I asked. She nodded. "Tomorrow." And for the first time, she looked at me without hesitation, without fear, without the old weight pulling her back. Together, finally. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?